Debate night in America. What to watch, how to watch, and will it actually move what's been an incredibly stable presidential race? Here's what you need to know. Good Tuesday morning. This is Cheddar's Need2Know podcast for September 29th. As you can tell, I am Carlo and I am here solo this morning. So my apologies for that. It is just me today. Jill actually doesn't get in until later this morning because of the holiday. Staffing here at Cheddar is a little bit stretched because we have live debate coverage tonight, so just bear with us. My apologies that it'll just be me, but let's get to it. And tonight is the night. As I said, President Trump and Joe Biden will meet face-to-face for the first of three presidential debates. Chris Wallace of Fox News is the moderator. A limited number of attendees will be in the debate hall at Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland tonight. That's a little bit interesting because, as we know, President Trump in particular really feeds off audience reaction. So the fact that it's not going to be a full debate hall could potentially, not be good for him. We'll have to see. I don't know how many people will be there and how it will sound on television, but it's just something to keep in mind. The whole shebang starts at 9 p.m. Eastern time, which is way too late for the record, but I will stay up as it is my duty, and I'm looking forward to it. I think this is going to be, this is important. This is really, I'll just say, I'll go into my unvarnished preview. I think the big topics tonight, well, we know what the big topics tonight are: the Supreme Court, the pandemic, social unrest among them. So first of all, you got to keep in mind, debates don't really sway as many votes as a lot of people think they do. That's just been proven in polls and political science analysis. And this has been, as I said in the open, really an incredibly steady race this year, despite everything else being incredibly unsteady. It's really one of the more fascinating aspects of this election year. But this is Trump's opportunity to change the dynamic, change the framing of the race. It's probably one of his last opportunities to do that. First debates are always the most important, but this year, even more so, just by virtue of the fact that Joe Biden has not been out there that much. And when he has been, he's been on a pretty tight leash, often using a teleprompter. It just hasn't been a normal campaign season. So I think that voters really want to get a chance to see the Democratic nominee on his feet. That's why, in my opinion, the first 30 minutes of tonight's debate is arguably the most important half hour of this election. I think that if Biden appears to be with it, if he doesn't let Trump get under his skin, and he's able to handle what's going to be, let's face it, just a fire hose of untruths and misinformation coming from the president, then I think that he's set up to win decisively on election night. That's just that's my thought. I could obviously be very wrong about that, but it's also why, even though Trump has more work to do, Biden really has more to lose, which is sort of par for the course for this strange year, right? Trump has to really, when you think about it, he has to reset the electorate's views on him as a person. He is an unpopular president. And he has to make himself more popular. He cannot win with just the base. He has to peel off some independents. Meanwhile, Biden has to essentially show that he's just cognitively there. And I'm not being, I'm not saying that to be smug, but it's just a fact. I honestly think it really comes down to that for him. We're all really familiar with the Trump show by now, right? We've been doing this dance for 4 or 5 years now. It's not really as fresh as it was back in 2016 in the debates with Hillary Clinton. I think that Biden really needs to make this he wants to make this a strict up or down referendum on President Trump and his handling of his presidency, particularly the pandemic. And that's smart because Trump probably loses that referendum 9 out of 10 times, I would guess. But once Biden starts playing on President Trump's turf, if he hits him with insults, lies, etc., if he sort of cedes ground, then I think the dynamic changes, and that's what the president's going to try to get him to do. Remember, when you're debating President Trump, it's asymmetric warfare. He doesn't play by the rules, and that's not really a partisan thing to say at this point. That's just the facts. It's very hard to game that out. And I think without the moderator acting as a real-time fact checker, which Chris Wallace has said he does not intend to do, it's going to be tough to do that, which is what is going to make this sort of an interesting debate with relatively high stakes, even if it only moves, maybe 1 or 2% of the electorate. I do want to do a quick update now on the news surrounding President Trump's revealed tax returns from the New York Times story that we talked about yesterday. Those are going to put him on the defensive going into tonight, and you can bet that they'll come up probably early in the debate. More experts and ethicists have come out in the media to say that the fact that the president has at least $300 to $400 million in personal debts due in the coming 3 or 4 years is indeed a national security threat, and there are concerns that those debts really make the president, able to be manipulated. Right? We don't really know who holds those loans, and again, he does not have the ability to pay them at this moment. But the bigger issue, the tax return issue, I was thinking about this yesterday. It's actually an opportunity, I think, for Biden to really frame it as something that goes beyond President Trump being sort of a failed businessman and a chronic tax avoider. Biden has an opportunity, at least this was what I would tell him if I was advising him, to really use this as a way to talk about what it actually is, which is, let's be honest, it's just an example of a rigged system that has different rules for the wealthy. And we all know that now. It's not like some sort of secret. There's all the people, and I'm talking about the tax code here in particular, right? There were a bunch of people on Fox News yesterday and sort of in the president's corner coming out and saying like, well, the fact that the president only paid $750 in federal income tax makes him a smart businessman, that he's able to manipulate the tax code, legally in order to do that. First of all, no, it doesn't. But second of all, the bigger question, is that a system that makes sense to you? Like maybe one of the good things that can come from this year is we could use this, as a way to reform the tax code. We're the only democracy in the West that requires citizens to file their own taxes. I don't know if a lot of people know that. Ask yourself, in whose vested interest is it for the tax code to be so unfair and so easily manipulated by the extreme wealth, by the extremely wealthy? And all the loopholes that exist for them, and not for regular people like you and I, people who don't itemize their deductions and don't do all of the other sort of like clever accounting tricks that the president has been shown to do. Okay, let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about the coronavirus. The global death toll has officially surpassed 1 million people. It's just obviously an agonizing toll. The U.S. is, quote, not in a good place with the virus. Those words coming from Dr. Fauci in an interview yesterday. Nationwide cases are now back above 40,000 per day, with, like we said yesterday, this concerning uptick in test positivities in the Midwest, particularly in states like North Dakota, Montana, Utah, Wisconsin. The White House, this is a little bit of good news. The White House says it will start shipping 150 million of those Abbott Laboratory rapid point of care tests to states in the coming weeks, at which point governors will then sort of decide how to allocate them, whether they go to schools, nursing homes, businesses. Again, we've talked about this many times since this test got FDA approval back over the summer. This could be a game changer. These are the tests that the college football teams are using. This is really the key. And President Trump yesterday, actually, while announcing this, he appeared to sort of change his position a little bit and talk about how, the fact that we're going to have this new testing facility is going to make, cases go up, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's a good thing. So it was good to hear him say that yesterday, and I think it's really good that these tests are finally going to be able to get out there to the states that need them. One more thing to watch these next couple of weeks, sort of on the same topic. The United States airline industry is bracing for imminent mass layoffs. This federal stimulus law that barred them from cutting jobs expires on Thursday, October 1st. In the absence of new legislation, which seems at this point pretty unlikely that we're going to get it by this week, if at all. United Airlines and its pilot union approved a last-minute deal to avoid cuts until next June, though the company's still planning to cut as many as 13,000 other jobs next month. We're talking about potentially 35,000 pilots, flight attendants, and other airline workers in the industry who could face the axe in the coming weeks. This is something that is quite precarious. I was actually talking to I was emailing back and forth with a listener named Eric, who wrote in this week, and we were sort of debating the merits of an airline industry bailout. And I think I've been hard on the airline industry in the past, but it's worth remembering that it employs 10 million regular people, right? 10 million working people. who go to work every day, whether they're, going to work flying a plane or going to work cleaning a plane or maintaining a plane or working in an airport. It's a major source of jobs. And obviously the pandemic was no fault of their own. That said, there's something about it being sort of a foregone conclusion that the federal government is just going to pass billions of dollars in aid for the airlines, but probably nothing, or at least very little, for the hospitality industry, restaurants, bars, hotels, theaters. There's something about that just sort of rubs me the wrong way. My position is pretty much like, bail out whoever needs to be bailed out, right? None of this is anybody's fault. We have to help the industries that need it, and the airline industry is one of them. But the thing with the airlines, we're talking about companies that have been raising prices on the public for 2 decades at least, right? You got to pay for your seat, you got to pay for your bag, you got to pay for where you want to stand in line. And that's led to, record profits in some cases. And what the airlines have done is they've been buying back stock with those profits and with the revenue from those fees. What they could have done has been save it for a rainy day, right? Put it away so that they're not in such a dire position the minute something like a pandemic sort of curbs air travel. So that's what still gets my goat. But that being said, I'm hoping that there is going to be some aid to this industry. Obviously, these people who work in it need their jobs. And the last thing we need are tens of thousands of more people added to the unemployment rolls in the next few weeks. All right, switching gears. An unusual move yesterday. A juror in the Breonna Taylor case filed a motion to release the transcript of the grand jury deliberations, arguing that the Kentucky Attorney General misrepresented the jury's findings when he gave them to the public last week. This is really unusual. If you've ever been on a grand jury, the whole point is sort of that they're supposed to be private. Right. Well, the unnamed juror says that the panel was never given the option to indict the 2 officers who shot and killed Taylor. So late last night, the Attorney General of Kentucky, granting that request, said the records of the proceedings will be released to the court tomorrow. So the question is, will the public get to see them? I suspect that as soon as they get sort of released to the court, they will eventually leak, and we will get to see sort of what went on in that grand jury room. So that's something to keep an eye on this week. Also, California, this is just so tough. Fighter fighters in California, they had just started to get a handle on some of those wildfires. And now we have 2 new infernos that have erupted in the northern state, in the wine country up there in Sonoma and Napa and Shasta counties. The Glass Fire, as it's being called, has destroyed a famous family-owned winery called the Chateau Boswell in Napa Valley, just completely obliterated it. And a nearby fire called the Zog Fire killed 3 people overnight. Neither blaze is contained. The governor of California, Gavin Newsom, issuing a new state of emergency. So you just gotta keep those people in your prayers and thoughts, and think about these poor firefighters who just think about how exhausted they must be after this just record-setting year, and we're still not quite to October, so there's still a ways to go. Okay, guys, some sports news. The Stanley Cup is coming to Tampa, Florida. The Tampa Bay Lightning shutting out the Dallas Stars last night to win the Stanley Cup Finals. It's the franchise's first championship since 2004. We don't talk about the NHL a lot, but this was one of the more successful bubble experiments of the year. It's now in the books. These teams will get to see their families for the first time since June or July. Tampa Bay is going to host a socially distanced boat parade and some sort of rally for fans this week. So Mazel, happy Stanley Cup to the Lightning. I can't say that hockey is not a sport that I'm particularly one that I particularly care about, but that doesn't mean that it's not important and there's not a lot of fans. So I wanted to mention that. Also, Monday Night Football last night, a good preview of sort of the future of the league. The 2 most exciting young quarterbacks in football going toe-to-toe. Patrick Mahomes led the Kansas City Chiefs to a 34-20 win over Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. Mahomes threw 4 touchdowns to hand the Ravens their first defeat of the season. Again, these are 2 young black quarterbacks playing a position that's really long been the province of white players. And playing, arguably the best football of their lives, the best football of this, of the year. It's just great. It's been great to watch. And Mahomes, also keep in mind, these guys are both, they're babies, right? Mahomes is what, 23? I think Lamar Jackson. Actually, let me check that. How old is Lamar Jackson? Lamar Jackson is 23. Patrick Mahomes is 25. My mistake. So yeah. Anyway, they're kids, and they've got long careers ahead of them, and it's exciting to see. And finally, if you thought Amazon was going to let 2020 go by without a big Prime Day sales event, I've got news for you. Amazon Prime Day officially on the books for October 13th and 14th, and the deals have already started. This year, Amazon says it wants to focus on small businesses that use Amazon to sell. So it's offering a $10 credit on any purchase of $10 or more made with eligible small businesses between now and October 12th. So that's a nice little that's a nice little bonus, I guess. There's a website you can go to on Amazon.com that shows you eligible small businesses in your neighborhood. You can sort by if they're Black owned or if they're female owned. Of course, let's be honest, the better way to shop is probably with those small businesses directly, just because Amazon takes a fairly hefty cut of purchases made on the platform. But anyway, that's, I think it's a nice thing to see Amazon at least pay some lip service to the small businesses, that many of which are, not doing so well because of Amazon. There's also deals on Amazon devices like the Echo, Fire TV services, like their music subscription. This, of course, gearing up for the holiday shopping season, which, like everything else this year, is going to be all out of whack. We'll see. We'll see if this is really the year that online shopping, takes over in-person retail. It'll be interesting to watch that. Those trend lines have sort of been converging over the last few years. So with that, I will leave you guys. That is what you need to know for Tuesday, September 29th. Watch the debate tonight if you can. If you can't, Jill and I will be back in the morning. We'll both be watching, and we'll give you our breakdown. And then it's off to the races, guys. We are, basically a month and a couple days now until this election. So pay attention. Keep in mind, who is trying to do what tonight. What is President Trump trying to get out of this? What is Joe Biden trying to get out of this? Who do you think is best equipped to handle running this country at a very precarious time in our history? That's what you need to know, as I said, for September 29th. See you guys tomorrow.